Hello, thank you for tuning in to Watchpost Security. Today I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Symantec Endpoint Protection agent features on the desktop that you can either allow the user to see or completely blind the user from seeing altogether. We're going to try to click all the boxes here in the next 5 minutes so you get an understanding of what's available. So we're going to start off with help, and we're going to go to troubleshooting. This is the main area where we troubleshoot the application. As you can see, it gives us server, group, last connected, host integrity, which is the posture checking tool, the location awareness, which is whether we're internal or external, and it says we're internal, and then the policy number that correlates to the policy number in the Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager. Also, we have communication settings. This would be for administrators. It's password protected. Basically, what we do here is we can import communication settings manually if we need to. The other thing we have is and that's where you would do it. It's called an XML Silent file, and you would download those from another SEPM or from your SEPM, your policy group or domain, and you would import that, and it would change the communication profile of the agent. We have update profile, which basically says just update the profile, send an update request to the manager to bring down whatever is important. Import and import are basically the same, and then export is if your agent is doing something goofy and you need to report it to Watchpost Security or to Symantec, you click this export or the export troubleshoot, and it will export the communications profile that the agent is using, so that you can add it to your email or ticket. All right, you see that's the policy XML that it's exporting. Okay. Then you have the troubleshooting data export, okay, and that troubleshoots the troubleshooting data text, okay. Next, we're looking at versioning. This is all the versioning. This is mainly for Symantec Endpoint Protection support teams to verify and look at with you over the phone. This also reports up to the Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager. We manage all this for you, so as a customer, all you'll be getting from us is an agent and a questionnaire about the network, and then some contact information about how to get in touch with us so that we can resolve any issue that you may have. All right. Debug logs. Debug logs, you would basically, these are other export logs that you can use to start a log session in the agent to troubleshoot issues and items. As you can see, there's no debug log to view. We can edit debug log settings here, and we can use the client management debug log settings for debug here, and as you can see, there's nothing for us to debug at the moment. This is the debug level that we can set in the agent, which is really cool because sometimes we don't need it to be completely granular. We just need a high level debug. Accounts. This correlates with if you're using Active Directory, user groups, or just local local administration or users on your machine. This basically will list out the groups that are on your machine, so you can quickly determine whether your machine is connecting properly, and these are the privileges. Okay, a lot of this correlates to Active Directory and system resource user environments. All right. Then here in computer, it gives you a little bit of information about your system. Talks about the operating system, the gen, physical, physical and virtual memory settings, and then it gives you the drives where the actual agent has access to scan or interrogate for malicious activity or just for resource improvement. Okay. Installing settings. All right, so these are the items that we install that support may need to know about. You may not know, but the agent will install these features. So antivirus basic download, advanced download protection, Outlook scanner, sonar, application device control, intrusion prevention, firewall, application hardening, threat defense for Active Directory, and web and cloud access protection. So these are all the protections that are installed on this particular agent to cover you and layer your security. Next, we have our server connection screen. Now this is awesome because it tells you what server you're connecting to, and the cool thing about this is it's very, very flexible actually. So you can have any port number you want to connect to. This is my demo, so I have it connecting over port 80, but you can go 8080, you can go 7413, and then have that port be encrypted communication to the SEPM. And so this gives you that information here. It says the last time you connected, it gives you the server IP you're connecting to, and if it's not an IP, it'll actually give you a name, and then it'll give you the port. Okay. Last thing is the subscription status. What this does is this goes back to the Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager and it verifies your subscription status. Have you paid your bill? Or have you paid for service, basically? Like I said, we handle the majority of this for you, so we would be contacting you if your agent subscription to Watchpost Security has expired and we need to take action on that. But it takes a little bit of time to pull down. So we're actually going to skip this because what it does, it says features, subscription state. Subscription state is your subscription valid, service end date, when your subscription ends, and your feature state. Okay, so those items will be downloaded. Will be downloaded eventually. I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to just go ahead and go to the next item. Okay, so the next item we want to go to is scan for threats. In Symantec Endpoint Security, you have your active scan, which is your normal virus scan, and basically this is what the thing looks like when it's scanning and so on and so forth. We're going to go ahead and cancel that. You have your full scan, which is the full disk scan. It scans everything it can touch, basically. I'm not going to click on that right now because I don't want to slow down the video. And then you have your, and this is a hard scan. This is not your telemetry and behavior stuff. This is your hard signature file scans looking for things at rest on the disk. Then you have your host integrity posture checking. This is an amazing tool. I call it a Swiss Army knife. You can do everything from do posture hardening on your operating system to mapping drives to actually downloading, executing software. And for the gray hats out there, you can actually open up Python shells and launch attacks against other machines. This is a very cool tool, and this basically button right here, it runs it. So, and there's no real pop-up other than to say it's going to run, but what it does is it runs your host integrity script, and it looks like this if the user clicks on it. It basically says it's going to run the host integrity, and it can be used in many ways. It's basically a scripting tool on the device. It can actually install backdoors or brick machines. It's a very cool tool to have in your toolkit. All right. Then we have our change settings. In this particular agent, we have 6 settings, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 up top. And basically what this is here is antivirus, and it gives you the antivirus configuration. This is all local stuff. If you allow the user to manipulate these items, there'll be this little lock right here will be unlocked. Some of these things I have are locked just to show you can lock them. There's auto protect configurations. There's download insight. Download insight is a very important tool that is built into the AV stack. There's a lot of things built into the AV stack that are not signature based. All right. And then we have our Outlook protection. This is for legacy Outlook users. And then we have our early launch. Early launch is huge. This allows your machine to be impervious to rootkits being installed. If your machine is pwned and you have a restart, it basically checks its last known good log to verify that your kernel is still intact and the kernel supporting files have not been tampered with, removed, or replaced. Okay. The next thing is proactive threat protection. All right, proactive threat protection. Right here, what we're looking at is a suspicious behavior. So we also call this sonar. And what we do is for high risk detections, we remediate. For low risk protections, we log. And you can obviously change this to whatever you need to, or whatever your comfort zone level is for your environment, or we'll do it for you. This will be part of the questionnaire. Prompt before terminating, so that basically says we're about to close down this virus that you're trying to open. We just want to make sure that, as far as you're concerned, it's a virus or not. We can give you that option or not. Okay. System change detection. This is protection against things that want to manipulate your domain name service and your host file, and we can protect those things. And then we have application lists for exceptions. I don't have anything in this list, but you can say these applications are allowed to change those items on the workstation or server. Okay. Network and host exploitation and mitigation. All right. So here what we have is we have our firewall rules, and it doesn't get into the specifics of the firewall rules. It just gives you very general traffic items that the user can manipulate if you were to allow it. As you can see, the firewall is enabled. Intrusion prevention. This is your IPS signature stack. This basically looks for octet streams in the session stream that exploits will use worms, RCEs, rats, things like that. It can detect. You can actually even write your own. There's snort rules for just about everything imaginable, and you can adapt those to the signature base in Symantec Endpoint Protection. Need to do testing, but it does work. Memory exploit mitigation. This one's a huge one. There are 4 different memory exploit mitigations that it protects against. One of the most important ones is heap spraying. And then we have notifications if you want to notify. And then we have the log sizes that we trade back and forth with the Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager, whether you're on-prem or in the cloud. Okay. Next, we have our web and cloud access protection. Now this right here is really cool because you can use a PLAC file or you can use the tunnel. And what this does is this migrates your agent to the ICDX cloud platform and migrates it away from using the on-prem SEP for its policy configuration and posture checking. It changes the game a lot. There's a lot of features in the ICDX cloud that you can take advantage of. I don't have that set up yet because I want to make this demo short, but you can use a PAC file or you can use the tunnel. There's 2 ways to use this, all right, to get to that. And then we have our web and cloud. I think, yeah, that's what I just clicked on. Sorry about that. Then we have our exceptions. This is where you tell it, don't touch that. All right. Obviously, I don't have any exceptions in this demo, but you have exceptions for security risk, file and web domain. You have exceptions for file and folder behavior of files and folders. You have exceptions for DNS and host. That's application, and you have exceptions, application exceptions. So that's what this looks like. You can drill down into these groups and set ignore, quarantine, remove. You can actually do actions here. Okay, you can actually initiate actions here. So I'm gonna come back to, let's say, sonar. This is one of your most important ones, and you can drill down and dig down into directories in sonar. Now the cool thing about this is you can see network drives here, and if I had these network drives connected, you'd be able to drill down and scan into those network drives because this agent is also server ready, so you can do some really interesting things there. All right, and then the last one is client management. Provides functionality to manage this client. Okay, and basically you have your general Windows toast pop-ups, things like that. If you have a proxy, if your reboot options, you can set those as the administrator. You can set them yourself. You have internal connection location switching. So we have internal and external. You can have up to 7 different locations depending on criteria. User information. So we can actually request the user type in information for us, or it looks like this. or we can have the system pick up information automatically. All right. So that's a really cool feature to have right there. All right. So, and that's it for the change settings board. Now we're going to go to the quarantine. Quarantine is pretty straightforward and simple. When things are quarantined, they end up in this table here, and you can restore, delete, rescan, export, and then you can actually add things that you think should be quarantined if you want, and then you have purge options. How much sits in your quarantine and when it should be purged, repaired, backed up. All right. This is, like I said, this thing is server ready, and all these options I'm showing you are managed from the console. I just wanted to show you the items on the agent. View logs. Now this is one of the cooler, in my opinion, one of the cooler parts. All this can be reached either through the console or an API from the console. But if you allow the users to see this, they can go and they can view their logs. So they can view scan logs, risk logs, and system logs. Okay, your system logs look like this, and we can determine what we want it to detect and scan. As you can see, it tells you what it couldn't scan and what it could scan. We can look at risk logs. If there's risks, they'll pop up here if it finds a detection. If there's scan logs, it tells you when the last time it ran the scan. Okay. Proactive threat protection, its logs look like this. So that's the threat log. If we detected threats, so there's the system log again. It tells you events, what it was logged by, and then there's the threat log there. Okay. And then we have network exploitation, traffic logs. Now this thing is kind of cool. All right. It's a big table. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit for you so you can see it. All right. So what this guy does is this incorporates the firewall, and then the other piece of this, which is the packet log, incorporates firewall and IPS, your intrusion prevention system, and your IDS. As you can see here, those things were blocked. So what I did is I blocked an outbound request to Reddit, because in this particular machine, I just wanted to show you that that can be blocked, an outbound request from the machine to Reddit. And if you look here closely, this is block top level domains. And the reason why I'm having it block top level domains is because I use a top level domain list to block just about everything. And then what I do is I have an allow list but above it that will allow certain FQDNs to pass the firewall rule above the block, so the block never sees it. But Italy, I usually block foreign domains. If it's not one of the general 7, US, com, net, org, so on and so forth, then I will block it and verify its connectivity before I allow it. So that's why you see the Italian, the IT block for Reddit. If it said US, it would pass it through. Okay, and so you see multiple of those because there's a Reddit daemon on my machine that wants to get out to Italy, and I'm not allowing it. Okay, so let's go to packet, and here's the packet log for the same thing. Now, as you can see, Symantec gives you a short description of the packet information that you can compare with Wireshark and build snort rules off of this block. Okay, so if there was something specific, an exploit in this particular block that we wanted to capture, we could capture that exploit here, and we can write a regex rule in our IPS to block specifically that exploit from that particular FQDN without blocking the entire FQDN. All right, so I just wanted to show you that. The next thing we have here, let's see, application hardening. Okay, now I don't have a rule set for application hardening right now, but basically what this does is it basically will give me all the applications that I am hardening for one reason or another, the description, the action, and the activity. All right, so let's go to the next one. Web and cloud access protection. I don't have my pack file configured, so that's why it pops up that message there. because I'm using on-prem. And then client management. In client management, oh, I want to show you one more thing in networking, because this is another cool thing. So let's see. That's the packet log. Let's go here. Let's go to control. So control is where, in which when it pops up, I'll move it over. It takes a little bit of time to pop up control. So what control will do is, if I had application or USB or hardware violations, you can actually block hardware at its ID level. You can either block a hardware group, or you can block a particular hardware with its specific ID here, and that would end up there. If I go to security log basically gives me my these are my hardening detections. So my host integrity detections land in my security log. Okay, so if there's any host integrity fails or anomalies, things you're tracking, it ends up in the security log. It's really great. So I use it a lot. And then the last thing is, let's see, we did control system log. System log basically just gives you events that the system has, events from the agent that it's been doing over a period of time, mainly for troubleshooting. All right. Lastly, the infamous live update. Live update is basically updates more than just signatures. It updates. It can update engines. It can update IPS. It updates just about everything on the agent. And this update is coming from the on-prem SEP, but this update could also come from the cloud, the ICDX cloud. But this is simply just live update. It keeps everything, it keeps your definitions and your sonar and your engine up to date. I recommend testing the engines before you deploy them. In another video, I'll go over the options that you have for testing the engine before you deploy it, and how to freeze the Symantec engine in place, so you don't have a CrowdStrike event by accident. You can freeze that engine in place until you've tested the next rev, and then you can deploy that rev after testing. This concludes the Watchpost Agent SEP security video for today. I appreciate your time, and